From classic abodes harboring extensive histories and all manner of associated restless spirits, to historic hotels whose halls and rooms are wandered by the ghosts of both former employees and guests long since deceased. Are you ready to brave our picks for some of the most chillingly haunted places in Iowa? Number 5. The Independence State Hospital. The Independence State Hospital, located off of Iowa Avenue out of Independence, Iowa, is a psychiatric treatment facility and museum that's recognized as the second asylum constructed in the whole of the state. Historically, the institution was initially constructed in 1873 as the Iowa Hospital for the Insane and was utilized in the holding of alcoholics, geriatrics, drug addicts, those suffering from severe handicaps, and even the criminally insane. Though a number of changes were made to the hospital under the purposes of modernization and renovation, into the present, over a century past, it looks very much the same as it did in its earliest days. Unlike a number of other institutions we've covered, this aged facility remains in operation into the present under the Independence Mental Health Institute and continues to serve patients while acting as a training campus to nurses. While some portions of the Kirkbridge are currently sitting unused, the whole of the building has been evaluated and is in relatively decent shape. The hospital also plays host to a museum, which features educational materials and relics pertaining to the site's earlier years. And for any with an interest, tours of the expanse are available by appointment. While Independence State dodged closure alongside many of its peers of the era, that's not to say its earlier years weren't marred with the same dirty practices, with electroshock therapies, lobotomies, and other torturous procedures administered on the regular. And local legend tells the spirits of those whose lives were stolen from them within might remain, with those frequenting the old campus describing disembodied screams, whispers, and laughter heard from empty spaces, inexplicable cold drafts felt within sealed rooms, the constant feelings of being watched or followed, and of close encounters with spectral doctors, nurses, and patients who wander the halls, and who've even interacted with the living at surprising lengths before fading away. Number 4. Hotel Blackhawk. Hotel Blackhawk, located off of East 3rd Street in Davenport, Iowa, is a historic lodging notable for its hosting of a number of high-profile figures, including of former presidents Barack Obama, Herbert Hoover, and Richard Nixon, as well as of writer Carl Sandburg and of boxer Jack Dempsey. Historically, predating the Blackhawk, lands the hotel would one day sit on would previously play host to the Saratoga Hotel. By February 16th of 1915, the Blackhawk's first 7 floors were completed, and by 1920, the remaining 4 stories were finished, allowing the hotel space for a massive total of 400 rooms. Over the years, the lodging would welcome a number of renovations and additions. In 1969, the establishment was sold to the Blackhawk American Corporation, and following a steady decline in business in 1976, the hotel would close its doors, after which it would sit vacant until 1978, when major renovations were launched under Phillips Enterprises, who would reopen the old expanse's doors to guests in 1983. Most recently, on March 6th of 2013, owners Hotel Blackhawk LLC would honor the property into the Marriott Autograph Collection, greatly bolstering its prestige. Hotel Blackhawk remains open into the present, offering 130 guest rooms and luxury suites, which, if you're wondering, is where space for the original 400 rooms was thrown into, dining options, a fitness center, cafe, and more, and continues to act as a significant landmark location amidst the resurgence of the downtown Davenport neighborhood. Chillingly, the Blackhawk has long been shrouded in tales of the paranormal that many claim is a result of the wandering spirits of former staff and guests, and across its bounds, many have reported extreme cold spots, disembodied voices and footsteps heard from empty rooms, objects sighted moving on their own, doors that slam shut, often locking present living into confined spaces, and odd electrical malfunctions. The pleasant manifestation of a woman in a red or sometimes blue evening gown has been observed floating dreamily along the halls after dark, while the presence of a former musician has been known to cause the piano in the ballroom to play by itself when the room's completely empty. The most famous story surrounding Hotel Blackhawk ties itself to legendary actor Cary Grant, who was staying on site in 1986 and was attending a showing at a nearby theater when he fell ill. Grant would return to his room for recovery. However, when a doctor arrived, sadly, it was discovered that nothing could be done for him, and he would pass on within the confines of the weathered lodging. The spirit of Grant has been encountered about and has even been known to interact with Select Living for a time before fading away. Number 3. Oakland Cemetery. Oakland Cemetery, located off of Brown Street on the north end of Iowa City, Iowa, is a prominent burying grounds that has served as the city's primary place of interment since the time of its creation. Historically, on February 13th of 1843, Oakland Cemetery lands would be deeded to the residents of Iowa City, with its original plot measuring all of 1 block that southwestern point met the corner of Governor and Church Streets. As the surrounding populace boomed and incidentally death rates skyrocketed, the aged graveyard would slowly expand, welcoming the remains of a number of significant figures from the community's history, and today it sits at over 40 acres. The Oakland Cemetery remains open into the present, offering options for both in-ground interments and cremation, and also hosts the infamous Black Angel, an 8.5-foot tall monument dedicated to the Feldevert family that was erected in 1912 and that's acted as a topic of focus in a number of associated ghost stories, superstitions, and myths. As history has it, in 1836, one Teresa Dulzel was born in Bohemia and would grow and study to become a practicing physician. Eventually, Teresa and her son, Eddie, would move to Iowa City, where she would make ends meet as a midwife. However, sadly, in 1891, Eddie would succumb to meningitis at just 18 years of age and would pass on, after which he was laid to rest within Oakland. When Teresa's husband, Nicholas Feldevert, passed on in 1911, she would have him cremated and his ashes interred right next to Eddie's. A year later, in 1912, Teresa would commission Chicago bohemian artist Mario Corbel to design what we know today as the Black Angel to stand watch over her family. Interestingly enough, Corbel's angel didn't start out as black, but rather a golden bronze. Teresa would join Eddie and Nicholas in death in 1924, after which her ashes were laid to rest with them. And chillingly, over the years, the once glowing effigy would begin to fade, and would slowly taint to its iconic black shade, after which local stories began to float on the winds. Some told that Teresa was actually magically inclined, and that her evil caused the angel to blacken, serving as a constant reminder of her family's wrongdoings, while others that a storm occurred on the night following Teresa's burial, and that the marker was hit by a bolt of lightning. To date, the Black Angel is a popular stop for paranormal investigators, local daredevils, students from nearby schools, and more. And on Halloween night, tradition has many touching and kissing the monument to test a rather ominous superstition that states that any who do so without their virginities intact will be stricken dead. While we don't hold too much merit in such fables, we'd feel amiss not mentioning that an additional legend tells that any pregnant woman who dares walk beneath the angel's outstretched wings will most certainly lose her child to be. On the logical end of things, the statue's blackening has since been confirmed as oxidation over its original bronze, meaning this entire tale could be complete hogwash, but who really wants to tempt fate? Number 2. The Matthias Ham Historic Site. The Matthias Ham Historic Site, located off of the intersection of Shiras and Lincoln Avenues out of Dubuque, Iowa, is a historic property turned educational venue. Its bounds also contain the Louis Ariandu Log House, which is considered the oldest structure in the whole of the state. Historically, this prestigious residence would begin as nothing more than a small 2-story, 5-room limestone home constructed under entrepreneur Matthias Ham for his family. In 1857, following the death of his first wife a year prior, Matthias would greatly expand upon his domicile by way of the addition of 3 floors, while issuing a slew of modernizations and renovations. By the 1890s, most of the Ham family had passed on, and Matthias's daughter, Sarah, was left to live alone in the aged family estate. Incidentally, circa 1905, she would choose to rent a large portion of the house's space out to the Kegler Cancer Clinic, while residing in another portion, and in 1912, she would sell her property outright to the city, under the stipulation that she be permitted to continue to reside there for the remainder of her days. Sarah would pass on in 1921, and in 1964, the Dubuque Historical Society would lease the site from the city, issuing a range of repairs and restorations before reopening it as the museum we know today. The Matthias Ham Historic Site remains open into the present, offering a wealth of information pertaining to the area's history, alongside an array of authentic American and European furnishings from the 19th century. Quite classically, the old Ham House is rumored to harbor the apparitions of the Ham family and of those friends and associated parties connected to its bounds in lives since past, and both staff and visitors have reported doors that open and close on their own, lights that flick from on to off, leaving all present in total darkness, objects observed moving on their own, windows that slam shut dangerously close to fingers, and mysterious lights not dissimilar to the glow emitted by candles that flit about the halls after dark. Chillingly, one evening, Sarah Ham, who was reading in her third-floor bedroom, would detect the sounds of someone prowling about the downstairs of her home. When she relayed the details of this night to her neighbors, they worked out that she should place an illuminated lantern in the window if she ever needed help moving forward. The very next evening, while Sarah was again reading in her room, she heard those same sounds. She quickly slammed her door shut and locked it securely, lit up her lantern, placing it in the window, and readied herself in the corner of the room with a gun in hand. As she waited, Sarah heard the distinct sound of heavy, boot-laden footsteps that ascended the stairs before approaching her room. Keeping a level head, Sarah waited for what she knew was the opportune moment before firing 2 rounds directly through the door. It was at around this time that her neighbors noticed something was up and started heading over, after which, when joined by Sarah, the party would follow a trail of blood leading down to the river, where they'd discover the body of a pirate captain deceased from wounds inflicted. Some of the most famous legends surrounding the Matthias Ham Historic Site tell that the wicked spirit of this pirate, not yet ready to leave the world before inflicting just a bit more pain, remains trapped across the property. And in his presence, many have described feeling cold chills and an unshakable sense of foreboding. A final fable revolving around this aged estate tells that long ago, a man who rented a room from the family hanged himself within the tower, and those who have braved it have told of inexplicable noises heard emanating from within, as well as of fleeting sightings of a spectral form that swings high above the ground. Number 1. Iowa State University. The Iowa State University of Science and Technology is a public land-grant university headquartered in Ames, Iowa, that acts as a flagship institution to the state system, and that boasts extensions in all 99 counties. Historically, what was then the Iowa Agricultural College and Model Farm would be established as a coeducational place of learning in 1858 and would be honored as the nation's first designated land-grant institution, following the Iowa legislature's acceptance of the 1862 Morrill Act on September 11th, which incidentally also marked Iowa as the first state in the nation to do so. The institution's first 1868 class would be fully coeducational, with formal admittance beginning the following year, and in 1872, Iowa Agricultural would proudly see off its first graduating class, which consisted of 24 men and 2 women. Over the years, the school would grow rapidly, and in 1959, it would reofficiate itself as Iowa State University of Science and Technology, albeit under the much shorter official moniker of Iowa State University. Now stretching over 2,000 acres, ISU has grown immensely since its formation and is internationally renowned for its effective and comprehensive research programs. ISU remains open into the present, offering 8 total colleges, including a grad college which offers over 100 bachelor's degree options, 112 master's degree programs, and 83 pathways for doctoral degrees, alongside a professional degree program in veterinary medicine. Over its lengthy existence, Iowa State has been surrounded in a range of campus legends and ghost stories that have been passed down through generations of alumni, with both students and faculty reporting a host of inexplicable activity across its bounds, including instances of locked doors unlocking and opening by themselves, disembodied footsteps and voices that emanate from empty spaces, alarms that sound without cause, and encounters with both shadowy figures and with full-bodied apparitions in clothing spanning the institution's years of operation. The farmhouse, which was constructed in 1860 and holds holds the title of being the oldest structure on campus, is rumored to harbor two separate spirits, the first being that of Edith Curtis, daughter to the former Dean of Agriculture, and the second being that of Esther Wilson, wife to a former university president. In life, Edith was fond of sneaking out at night, and on many a morning, those frequenting the property have discovered all of the shades wide open, as if someone was gazing from the windows after dark. Esther's presence has been blamed in the moving of various objects, and has even been known to tidy up when the premises gets a bit too dusty. The Golden Star Hall, which is located within Memorial Union, which acts as a memorial to Iowa State veterans, is rumored to harbor the spirit of Hortense Elizabeth Wind, who is the only female World War I vet memorialized on site. Elizabeth's presence has been known to create strange breezes, inexplicable noises, and causes those near to experience an overwhelming feeling of loneliness. Additionally, Residence Hall, which occupies the 4th, 5th, and 6th floors of Memorial Union, is said to be haunted by the spirits of those tied to it in lives since past, and many who frequent said floors have reported disembodied footsteps through vacant halls, run-ins with eerie, shadowy masses, and odd knocking and scratching noises that emanate from empty rooms. The Fisher Theater, which is located in the Iowa State Center, is rumored to hold the apparition of former Professor Frederica Shattuck, who was actually the first person to introduce the art of theater to the campus. Following her passing, her old wheelchair was kept around, and to date, it has a habit of moving around on its own. Lastly, on the northwestern end of the campus lies a 2-acre cemetery that's been maintained by the university since 1876 and is actually one of the few active cemeteries officially tied to a university campus. Those who have braved this old boneyard have later told of experiences in which they've felt the arms of their dearly departed embrace them from beyond the graves, while others have encounters with the spirits of a former groundskeeper and his dog, who were usually spied working in harmony while tending small tasks. Taking its lengthy and intriguing history into account, and coupling it with such a formidable assortment of associated legends and tales of encounters with the paranormal, we felt ISU was the perfect choice as the most haunted place in Iowa.